In the summer of 1978, Superman the movie promised audiences something impossible, something they had never seen before, something no other film dared to promise, that they would believe a man can fly. And boy, did they deliver.
This year, Superman brings you the gift of flight. Superman, the movie.
Superman became the biggest movie ever and inspired generations of fans. But what about today? Does the movie still retain that magic? Do we still believe a man can fly? Let's dig deeper and discover what it is about this movie that hits different than any other superhero movie, and how Superman changed cinema forever. But first, we have to understand the mess that was Superman's production. Chapter 1: The Impossible Movie. In the early 1970s, superhero movies weren't taken seriously. Comic book adaptations were cheap, campy, disposable.
Who is that character anyway?
Ilya and Alexander Salkind secured the rights in August 1974, and they decided to make an absolute epic, starting by hiring Mario Puzo, the writer behind The Godfather, to write the screenplay, and eyeing Steven Spielberg to direct, which sounds impressive, until you realize Puzo's script was reportedly over 500 pages long, and production would have to wait for Spielberg to finish that fish movie of his. The script wasn't really filmable. A director was still needed, and so was Superman, but the Salkinds pushed forward anyway, and that set the tone for the entire production. Massive ambition with almost no limits. Chapter 2: One movie becomes two. As rewrites piled up, costs started rising fast, but instead of scaling down, the producers made an even riskier decision. They would shoot Superman 1 and 2 at the same time. Today, that sounds normal. Franchises do this constantly. But in the mid-1970s, that was almost unheard of. The Salkinds had previously done this with their Three Musketeer films, but this was a different beast entirely. And it still didn't have the right director. Enter Richard Donner. The director is the main reason Superman actually worked. Why? Because he respected Superman, as he told The Hollywood Reporter in April of 2016. So, I sat down and read the script, and it took forever. It was the longest thing I have ever read. It was indulgent and heavy and had no point of view and treated the comic books with disrespect. It was disparaging. It was just gratuitous action. I was brought up on Superman as a kid. There was a whole point in my life where I read Superman. So, when I was finished with it, I was like, man, if they make this movie, they are destroying the legend of Superman. I wanted to just defend him. I wanted to do it just to defend him. The movie was treating Superman like a joke. Donner hated that. He believed audiences would only accept Superman if the film treated the character seriously. His word for this was verisimilitude. Basically, the movie had to feel emotionally real. That meant stripping out much of the campy tone from earlier drafts, and, with writer Tom Mankiewicz, Donner shaped the movie into something mythic. Krypton became a science fiction tragedy, Smallville became Americana, Superman became sincere, which seems obvious now, but at the time, this approach was revolutionary. Without it, that modern superhero movie probably doesn't exist. Chapter 4: The Casting Crisis. Then came the biggest question of all: who plays Superman? The producers wanted stars. Robert Redford, Paul Newman, Burt Reynolds, Muhammad Ali were discussed, because the logic was simple. Big actor equals big box office. But Donner pushed for the opposite. He wanted an unknown. Eventually they found Christopher Reeve, a relatively inexperienced stage actor with the exact combination the role needed: warmth, intelligence, and physical presence. Charisma much?
This is J.C. Penney's $10 dress shirt. It's made of silky, smooth Ultressa polyester, a fabric many $14 shirts are made of. It has a special collar that feels soft but stays in shape, a feature many $16 shirts have. It has 7 buttons instead of 6, so that it won't pop open at the waist, a feature some $20 shirts don't even have. The J.C. Penney $10 dress shirt, probably one of the most expensively made $10 dress shirts in America.
There was just one problem. He was skinny. F. So, Reeve underwent physical training, transforming himself into Superman during pre-production, and, in hindsight, this may have been the single most important decision in the entire production, because Reeve didn't just play Superman, he defined him. Chapter 5. Hollywood's most expensive gamble. Filming began in 1977, and almost immediately, everything became chaos. The movie was shooting at Pinewood Studios, New York, large-scale sets, miniature environments, and massive sound stages simultaneously. Meanwhile, both Superman films were still being shot together, which created a nightmare. Scenes were constantly rewritten, sets had to be reused, effects work lagged behind production, and the budget started exploding. The original estimate had been around $15 million. Eventually, the cost ballooned just past $50 million. At the time, that was catastrophic money. Hollywood began quietly expecting the movie to fail. Chapter 6. The Flying Problem. But the production's biggest crisis wasn't the budget, it was flight, because nobody had ever convincingly filmed a flying human being before. The old methods looked fake. Audiences could instantly tell when someone was dangling from wires, and this was a disaster because Superman flies constantly. So, the production entered a kind of technological arms race against itself. Effects teams experimented with wire rigs, front projection, optical compositing, motion control systems, and something called the Zoptic process. Most of it didn't work. Entire days were lost testing effect shots that looked ridiculous. The only thing audiences absolutely had to believe still wasn't convincing. Eventually, visual effects artist Zoran Perezic helped develop a breakthrough system that finally created believable flight photography. And suddenly, the movie worked. That is where the famous tagline came from, "You'll believe a man can fly." Because during production, that was not guaranteed at all.
Man flying. But the best special effect of all was Christopher Reeve himself. We discovered very early on that he, being a glider pilot, could hold his body aerodynamically. So when he got into the harness, the whole shot began to come alive.
But just as the film overcame its flight hurdles, Marlon Brando enters the picture. By the 1970s, Brando was both legendary and notorious. The production paid him a staggering amount of money, millions of dollars for less than 2 weeks of work, which made headlines immediately. But Brando also became a symbol of the production's excess. Stories from set include him refusing to memorize lines, reading cue cards off of camera, and suggesting Jor-El should be played as a green suitcase. Some stories were exaggerated, of course, but the core problem was real. The production was hemorrhaging money while accommodating enormous star egos, and tensions were getting worse. Chapter 8. The War Behind the Camera. As filming dragged on, director Richard Donner and the Salkinds increasingly clashed. The conflict boiled down to one thing. Donner wanted quality, the producers wanted completion. Donner kept demanding more takes, more effects work, more time. The producers saw the schedule collapsing, budgets kept rising, deadlines slipped, and neither Superman film was actually finished. Eventually, the producers made a critical decision. Stop focusing on both of the films. Just finish the first one. At this point, about 75% of Superman 2 had already been shot, but now everything shifted towards salvaging the original movie for release. This decision would permanently fracture the production. Then, somehow, the movie worked. Superman released in December 1978, and audiences loved it. Critics loved it, the effects stunned people, Christopher Reeve became a star, John Williams' score became iconic, and suddenly the movie Hollywood thought might become a financial disaster became one of the most influential blockbusters ever made. It proved superhero movies could 1. Be serious, emotional, technologically ambitious, and commercially massive. Modern comic book cinema starts here. Without cinema, there's probably no Batman, no Spider-Man, no Iron Man, and maybe no modern cinematic universe at all. And that's all due to verisimilitude. 2. Verisimilitude. Richard Donner believed in Superman, in the character and his message of hope, and he wanted audiences to believe in it as well. Is, simply put, why we believe Superman can fly. As stated before, Mario Puzo's script treated Superman as a joke, a flight of fancy for children, but Richard Donner wanted us to believe in Superman, the myth, the legend, the man. He wanted us to believe what Superman believed in, truth, justice, and the American way.
Why are you here? There must be a reason for you to be here.
Yes, I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
You're going to end up fighting every elected official in this country.
Sure you don't really mean that, Lois?
I don't.
Even in the 70s, this was seen as corny, But the amazing thing is that the film never belittles who Superman is or what he stands for. There's an underlying love and truthfulness in this film that captures Superman perfectly, and through his love for Superman, Donner struck at the essence of one of America's defining mythological figures. However, the film craft that went into this film is also proof of that passion. 3. Craftsmanship. This film is perfect on all fronts. Its dialogue razor sharp, script balanced perfectly, aesthetically beautiful, innovative and unforgettable. This is because it is not just a commercial product, but a staggering artistic accomplishment, mainly due to the artists who care about their crafts and modern directors fighting for their films, cast and crew. Marvel and Disney basically cast directors based on DEI, and the few directors who do fight for their work get shunned by Hollywood, Sinners being one of them, or have their movies die on Netflix. Even actors are all just some form of Nepo baby or Disney star products with no acting bones in their bodies, because this film could not have succeeded without Christopher Reeves. More on him later.
Yeah, the flying, of course, is one of the things that startles a lot of people when they see the film at first. There aren't any strings attached, or at least you don't see any strings attached.
No, there aren't.
Can you tell us how it's done at all?
No.
You can't divulge any part of the secret?
No. Who would want to know? It'd ruin your enjoyment of the film, you know?
Is it difficult? I mean, it's physically a difficult thing to do. Why?
Well, I'd have to explain how it's done to say where it hurts, you know. Sorry.
It has been explained by some people. I mean, it's not a complete
If other
secret.
people want to go and get their kicks by talking about how magic is performed, then, you know, there's always a party pooper someplace. But I'm not going to endorse what they're saying. You know.
The script is so well balanced, containing both levity and pathos in a stunning balancing act. For those who haven't watched the film, don't listen to those who call it goofy or campy. It's very sincere with moments of laughter and tragedy sprinkled in between. Trust me, it gets really dark in its third act with a major character death. The script embellishes Superman's power at times, but it works. Well, just like the dialogue. The dialogue is razor sharp. This one scene perfectly defines Superman, because yes, Superman is that much of a Boy Scout.
Excuse me, sir.
Here, you forgot my article.
Excuse me, Mr. White. I was wondering if perhaps you could arrange for half my salary to be sent to this address on a weekly basis.
Your bookie, right?
My what?
Don't tell me. He sends a check every week to his sweet gray-haired old mother.
Actually, she's silver-haired. I'll see what I can do. Thank you very much.
He shocks people with his sincerity. People that call Snyder's films dark don't pay attention to the subtle commentary this film makes on the world around Superman. Now, back to Christopher Reeve.
You really shouldn't smoke, Miss Lane.
I've watched those films many, many times. I grew up watching, and that's what made me fall in love with Superman was Chris and his performance. You know, he brought Superman to life for the first time. I mean, on such a large, epic scope, being in film and bestowing the charisma and the power and the humbleness that the Man of Steel has.
I guess I must have fainted.
Fainted? You fainted?
Sorry.
Christopher Reeve is what every Superman should aspire to be. He is the gold standard because he was true to the character of Superman. And that's because he embodied the gentleness and mischievousness of Supes. There was a pure, playful and reassuring quality to his performance, best seen in quieter moments, such as his and Lois's interview and first flight, or rescuing a cat from a tree. It seems Reeves was determined to show Superman's real strength, not by shouting and having hissy fits, but by a quiet dignity.
At his best, I think if you look at the scene from Superman 1 where Superman shows up on Lois's balcony, they talk for a while, and he takes her flying around, that's right out of a love story.
In every scene, no matter how zany, funny, slapstick, romantic, tragic or action-packed, Reeves explores Soup's strength. Whether he's Clark Kent, Superman or Kal-El, he treats Superman with dignity.
Do with that. And I think we found over the years that what people want is, they don't want it to be too serious, but they want it to be great. They want it to be epic. They want the mythology. They want Superman and Lois and Krypton and Smallville and all that stuff, and leave the parody to Saturday Night Live.
Any Superman film is a balancing act of Superman's tripart identity: Clark Kent, the hapless reporter, Kal-El, the Kryptonian, and Superman. And although it seems paradoxical, Superman is all three. Kal-El, Superman Clark Kent is hope embodied, a guiding light who shows us what we can be, that we too can fly. Do I believe a man can fly? So, nearly 50 years later, does the movie set out to do what it promised? With all the advancements of CGI, film tech and countless reinterpretations, do I, a Gen Zer, still believe in Superman when I watch this film? Yes, yes and yes. This film's timelessness is not dependent on fads, trends or even CGI. Its spectacle is not its substance. In other words, this film was built to last. You see, the foundation of the film is verisimilitude, a belief in Superman's character and actions, not a political allegory, not a reimagining of Superman, but respect, love and admiration. Movies like this, The Fifth Element and The Mummy, have something films today lack. Some call it magic, nostalgia or atmosphere, a feeling that a movie leaves deep in our hearts and mind, a pure cinematic love bred from the very heart of the filmmaker that can never be duplicated, a simple but elusive wonder we lost in childhood, a wonder born from verisimilitude, a wonder only love can provide. And as long as film's foundation is to inspire viewers, it has a chance to live forever.